And this is, I think, the last slide. So this is sort of what's coming in Papillary. So savolitinib, and Tony's been involved in this and others, the 2 phase 2 trials on the top, where you can sort of see the response in the PD rates. There was what ended up being a smaller randomized trial versus sunitinib, and then phase 3 Somata, you can see the design there, and then separately Stellar 304, which is Zanza, cousin of Cabo.
For people listening on a podcast, it might be worth saying that do you want me to do?
Somata is savolitinib durvalumab versus sunitinib versus durva monotherapy, 200 patients, 2-to-1 randomization. And Stellar 304 is also 2-to-1 zanzalitinib, nivo versus sunitinib, about 300 patients. So Hans, do you want to comment on the sunitinib control arm in these trials?
I don't know how to advise a patient to consider sunitinib monotherapy.
Meaning you wouldn't put a patient on this trial because of the possibility?
I would not be excited about this trial. This is not a question to ask right now. At least the control arm is not the right one. Sunitinib is not an appropriate control arm, at least not for me, not for myself or for my spouse.
So I see a difference between the Somata and the Stellar, because Somata is a biomarker-defined population, okay? And we have sunitinib retrospective data activity in the biomarker MET-driven population that actually look pretty decent. It's very not the same situation as Stellar, which is not as an all-comer, not biomarker-selected patient population. So I'm not okay with having sunitinib as the control arm in the Stellar.
Would you rather have Cabo and Somata?
I would rather have Cabo, but we have data of sunitinib in MET-driven patient population that is doing very well, and I think it was retrospectively assessed also in the PAPMET study, where the MET-driven status there wasn't making a difference.
Yeah, so in the MET-driven population, we're going to have sunitinib as a control arm just to get an idea of where we are, because otherwise people will say it's prognostic and not predictive, and we know what sunitinib does. Now, whether or not that would enroll in the US is a different issue, but it will enroll the rest of the world, and I think it will tell us for the next 20 or 30 years, we hope, about what the role of that. No one's going to do that trial again. It's a very, very difficult study to do. So it's important it takes place. Otherwise, the whole thing dies. I think when these trials, I did at ASCO, a presentation at ASCO GU only 9 months ago, where I was very happy standing up with lots of people saying VEGF TKI monotherapy is a standard of care in this disease, and sunitinib from an OS perspective is the same as cabozantinib, is a 50-patient randomized phase 2. I'm relatively happy with that. My position is shifting now because of the ipi-nivo data that I've seen, suggesting that immune therapy does clearly have a role to play.
Nice.
And under that circumstance, that makes my position at Christmas more complicated. It's shifted, and as I said before, I think VEGF TKI IO now is the standard of care, and if you're lucky enough to have access to that, and not everyone in the world does have access to that, then that should be the treatment of choice.
Final word, predict the outcome of these trials. We'll just go down. David, Sumita, Stellar, do you want to take a stab? Did you have a comment, Tian?
I do have
a
comment.
Go ahead.
I think what you're missing there is PAPMET2, because it's all papillary kidney cancer.
Cabo Atezo versus Cabo.
Atezo
Right, there's no
versus
data. That's
Cabo.
why it wasn't on the slide.
Well, but Somata and Stellar 304 are both
Fair enough.
ongoing trials, so I think we should accrue to the trials.
Agreed.
And that's Cabo-nivo versus Cabo.
Cabo Atezo versus
Cabo Atezo,
Cabo.
and that's a cooperative group study. Fabulous. And great insight and great advertising for that study. You will go through the results of these studies. Let's include that as well, because I suspect that trial will show similar things to Stellar 304.
So let's say, yeah, when Somata, Stellar, and PAPMET2 are done, where do we think the standard of care is? David?
I think Somata is probably going to be negative. You could argue that one of the arms in PAPMET2 shouldn't continue, because we've answered that question about second-line PD-L1. And Stellar could be positive based on what I've seen. At worst, that's a study of sunitinib versus something that's at least as good as Cabo, maybe better.
An IO-TKI, yeah.
So I think Stellar 304 could be positive.
Hans?
Yeah, I don't think there's any surprise here, to be honest with you. I mean, so a PD-1 TKI is always going to be better than single-agent TKI, right? Do we need to answer the question? Do we need to put resources into it? Obviously, Zanza needs to be developed as a new agent. I get it. But it doesn't really help us. The PAPMET2 will not answer anything new. Yes, there will be higher response rates. I don't know I don't know what we take from there, right? The question is, can we ask better questions to move forward? The standard now is dual therapy. The question is, how do we go from there? Do we need to repeat single agent carbo in our patients? I don't think so.
Yep, Laurence?
So I think Sameta has a little chance to be positive, maybe underpowered. I think Stellar 304, if complete enrollment, will be positive. I think what David was referring for the PAPMED-2 study is that it should discontinue the fact that patients in second line are being enrolled. It should only randomize patients in first line, based on what we've learned both from CONTACT and TiNivo-2. So I think maybe this study will be positive.
Broadly agree. Tom, last word.
I very rarely get the last word. I think it's fantastic we're doing big randomized trials in this disease. I think patients, I hope, are not being put in harm's way because of them. From a global perspective, I don't think they are. I think they're getting additional opportunity because sunitinib is the standard of care, and having the opportunity to have these new drugs is a good thing for those countries, not a bad thing. And so I'm really delighted that for the first time, we've got these big randomized studies. We're going to answer really important questions in this cancer that has been left behind for such a long period of time. We only go back 3 or 4 years, and everolimus versus sunitinib, 25 patients in each arm was the standard of care. So this is leaps and bounds. This is huge progress, and I think it's fabulous that we're going to answer these questions, and I think we should enroll aggressively into these studies where we can.
Excellent. All right, thanks everyone.